It wise to begin writing the paper while the work is still in progress. Don't wait. After every payment is done, then prepare the paper. It's not good habit. You should begin write the paper while the work is still in progress. Why? Anybody can answer it? Because this makes the writing easier because everything is fresh in your mind. Furthermore, the writing process itself is likely to point to inconsistencies in the results and perhaps to suggest interesting sidelines that may be followed. Perhaps when you prepare the papers, you still can make some change for your results, and perhaps you can do a lot of new methods, get new results, and refresh the results. So, start the writing while the experimental apparatus and material are still available. You can make some change. If the data is not good enough, you can make it better. Also, if you have courses, it is wise to write up the work while they are still available to conduct. Sometimes, if you not prepare your paper in time, perhaps your courses will move to other facilities or it's not easier to conduct. In this part, for the introduction, the purpose is supply sufficient background information to allow the reader to understand, evaluate the results of the present study. Only read the introduction, the readers can get a lot of information from your paper. Don't have to need to refer to previous publication on the topic. Don't have to read other papers. Only your papers is enough for them to follow. That's the purpose of the introduction. So the introduction should also provide the rationale for the present study. You should state briefly and clearly your purpose in writing the paper. Choose reference carefully to provide the most important background information. Much of the introduction should be written in present tense. Remember, it is in present tense for the introduction because you are referring primarily to your problem and established knowledge relating to it at the start of your work. So you should prepare the introduction in present tense. Just remember, in present tense in this part. Some guidelines for good introduction are as follows. First, the good introduction present first with all possible clarity. The nature and the scope of the problem investigated should be all clear. For example, it should indicate why the overall subject area of the research is important. It should briefly review the pertinent literature to orient the readers. It also should identify the gap in the literature that current research was intended to address. That means, in the introduction, that should include a lot of pertinent in literature or literature or conclusion is different from your paper, they are also should be included in the introduction part. It should then make clear the objective of the research. In some disciplines or journals, it is customary to state here the hypothesis or research questions that the study addressed. So, in the introduction part, there are a lot of hypotheses or research questions perhaps is addressed. In some other journals, objective may be signaled by the wording such as in order to determine or something. So, in introduction, sometimes include this kind of phrase, like in order to determine. For the good introduction, sometimes it should state the message of the investigation. If deemed necessary, the reasons for the choice of the particular message should be briefly stated. Finally, in some disciplines and journals, the standard practice is to end the introduction by stating the principal results of the investigation. That means in the introduction should include some of the principal results and the principal conclusions here. A good introduction that is constructed in this way have like a funnel shape, moving from broad and general to narrow and specific. Such an introduction can comfortable funnel readers into reading about the detail of your research. Funnel, like this. This is a funnel. That means first you have to show what is the condition or phenomenon investigated, how important or relevant it is. Then you go to which aspect of the condition or phenomenon is your focus, is your experiment, your investigation. What is known and what is not known about this aspect, also important. Then let's go to, for the introduction, go to the what is the question of the study was designed to answer. It's important to keep in mind that the purpose of the introduction is to introduce the paper. That's the purpose. Introduce your paper to the readers. The first row is the kind 1. Is definition of the problem. Definition of the problem is the first row. If the problem is not stated in a reasonable, understandable way, readers will have no interest in your solution. Even if the reader labors through your paper, perhaps sometimes it's not likely. If you haven't presented the problem in a meaningful way, perhaps they have no interest. Although they labored through your paper, he or she will be unimpressed with the brilliance of your solution. So, the introduction is crucial for the readers to have some interest in your solution. In a sense, a scientific paper is like other types of journalists. In the introduction, you should have a hook to gain the reader's attention. You will let the readers know why did you choose that subject or why is it important. The second, third, fourth guideline related to the first. The lecture reveals specifications of objective and identification of the message to the present in such a way that the reader will understand what the problem was and how you tried to resolve it. That means it's like the second, third, fourth guideline is that the reader will understand what the problem was and how you tried to resolve it. On the last point, also an important part include the main results and the conclusions. Many authors, especially beginning authors, should make the mistake of holding back their more important findings until late in the paper. That's not good habit. You have to show your important findings here in the introduction part. So, in extreme cases, authors have something omitted important findings from abstract, presumably in the hope of building suspense while proceeding to a well-suited dramatic climax. Climax is not good habits. However, this is silly. Basically, the problem with the surprise ending is that the reader becomes bored and stop reading long before they get to the punchline. So, at the beginning, you should let the readers interested in your paper. You should show the important, the main results and the conclusions, the important findings here in the abstract and introduction part. The introduction provides a roadmap from problem to solution. That's like a roadmap. The map is so important. Just keep in mind. It is sometimes is a bit of redundancy with abstract is often desirable. Sometimes perhaps have some overlapping with the abstract is okay. Usually, in this introduction part, citation abbreviations are also important. We have to pay attention. Good reference help to keep the literature neat and handy for those who must search it. If you have previously published the preliminary notes or abstract of the work, you should mention this in the introduction. If close-related papers have been or are about to be published elsewhere, you should say so in the introduction at or near the end. Perhaps in this case, the readers will notice it. In addition to the preceding rules, keep in mind that your paper may well be read by people outside your narrow specialty. Therefore, in general, you should define in the introduction any specialized terms or abbreviations that you will use. You have to define these kind of specialized terms or abbreviations in here. By doing so, you can prevent confusion. So, usually for introduction, they have this kind of step. Is from the funnel, like a funnel shape. First, describe the condition and its relevance. Here, and have some reference, the main important reference here. And then you go to what aspect is your focus. First is general, and then it's your focus. And then go to what is already know and what is not know. What is already know, what is know. And last, why did you do this kind of study? And usually have some results and conclusion here. So, let's make a conclusion for the introduction part. Should be brevity, clarity, and direction all the hallmark of a good introduction. Sometimes, for the good introduction, apart from its intended role of covering why the study was undertaken, also reflect the style of the writers and set the tone of the papers. Sometimes, if your style of writing is good enough, perhaps we'll give a plus on your paper. But while writing introduction goes a long way in impressing the editors, reviewers, and readers, so we have to prepare the introduction carefully. After all, the first impression is the best impression. That's for this part. Thank you for your attention.